Good to have you here. 3 and Out. Kevin Thomas. What is that? You know, you leave, you take a little vacation,
hey man, listen, you
and you come back, and you go, we got Ben Troop on the show.
Listen, you enjoyed yourself. Got more of a southern twang.
I don't know what that was, Ben. I apologize. We got Ben Troop on the show.
Listen, wherever you went, I'm trying to go. Let's just know that I'm trying to go there.
Come back, have a different accent. All at the
you went what's the head coach of LSU? You went wherever he went.
Yeah, I did. I just went full Brian Kelly on the show.
Brian Kelly, like Kevin Thomas, he knows my pain. He doesn't. He just went on a nice vacation.
Yeah, on my family. Went on a family vacation. Good to have you back. Here it is, 3 and Out. Kevin and Ben, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are live at ESPNCoastal.com. Also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can log in and follow the show there as well. Plenty to get to. We got spring practices winding down this week. Florida's actually got their spring game coming up on Thursday. Georgia coming up this weekend. Alabama's coming up this weekend as well. We'll chat with David Waters, Gators Breakdown. He will join us in hour number 1. Rich Stiles of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show will join us. And Home Team, Brandon Leak will join us, co-host of Home Team in Hamilton. We'll talk about the Braves and their start. Also, the Hawks are in the play-in game against Charlotte starting tomorrow. A one-and-done situation there for the ATL. And Ben, again, I was out last week. The kiddos were out on spring break, and Braves season gets started. Braves 2-2 going into last night. They get shellacked by the Nationals. They're now 2-3 coming into tonight's ball game. Going to pitch a young man in Bryce Elder, making his major league debut after they're going to, incorporate the 6th starter that they had talked about. Maybe not going this route. I think a lot of folks thought it was going to be Spencer Strider or Tucker Davidson. Both of them pitched last night because of the short start by Huascar Ynoa. So the Braves having to make some roster moves just to get starting pitching for tonight. But are you concerned at all? And again, I will play the BJ Bennett role here for me. Are you concerned at all about the Braves back in pitching on the starting rotation, given that Ian Anderson had a bad end to spring? His first outing Sunday was not good. Huascar Ynoa's outing yesterday, not good. And the Braves are digging into the minor leagues to get a starter for tonight's ball game.
I'm not. I go back to Kevin and what, something we talked about before the show. We act as if this offseason was anything but irregular. It was not normal. All the players, while when you hear quote where they was all working out in Arizona, I wonder how much of that is more baseball specific. It's really to stay in shape, to make sure that whenever the lockout is over and we have a season, I'm ready to go. And it was kind of like the 5 o'clock hour came. They got negotiated. Everybody's flying to their respective cities, and it's early in the season. Like I look at the first part of baseball kind of like the first month of football. You're trying to work out the kinks. You don't really know what you have yet. Now, if this is the last month of the season, very concerning. But, 5 games in, not to give them any pub, by the way, but, the Yankees ain't really scaring nobody right now either. It's early, right? So some of the best teams usually find their niche. I get it, Kevin. Snitker made some kind of sketchy, decisions when it comes to the starters. But I just think that it's baseball. It's the 5th game. You understand you're going to have some slip-ups. It was ugly. Everybody wanted to be this. Now, opening day was still crazy. Everybody got a different opening day. It had like 3 open days in a row. You got Wednesday, you got Thursday, you got Friday, you got Saturday. But I think that when it comes to this Braves team, they're going to figure it out. You really don't know what you have yet. Everybody's just trying to kind of get there, trying to get them early season jitters out the way. But I'm not too concerned about it now. Yes, the thing about baseball is a team that's really bad can look really good on night, and a team that's really good can look really bad one night. But I think this Braves team they built for the long haul. Thank God they still got 50 something more to go. I think it'll be just fine. But you just got to snit just understanding how to really work this work this bullpen, work this rotation, and I think it'll be just fine.
Yeah, only 157 more nights.
Yeah,
to figure this thing out. And again, I think they will. I know people look at it and go, "Oh, that's a bad start." And I tell people everything is magnified, as you said, Ben. In sports, everything is magnified at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season, especially in the NBA or Major League Baseball have just really, really long regular seasons where it's like, oh, they're off to a 2-8 start. It's like, well, you got some time to figure it out don't read too much into it. Right now, you're hanging around 500. If people forget, last year they didn't even get above 500 until July or August last year. They were floating with that line. So they're playing okay baseball. They've had some bad nights. They've had some good nights. I think the good you take away is this team most nights has been able to pitch pretty well outside of a couple starts. Their bullpen has been nice, and I think Snicker's trying to not overuse them, early. I think Matt Olson's been nice. He's been off to, I think, coming into last night's game, and he did get a hit, but he was hitting like 560 coming into last night's game. Had done really well. Marcell Ozuna, who a lot of folks were kind of up in the air about. Like, obviously, you got your off the field stuff that a lot of people weren't too cool with how some of those things played out. Don't know how they feel about him being on a team in some respects, but he has come out and looked pretty good, considering he hasn't played in a Major League Baseball game in almost a year. So I think he's off to a good start. Now, Dansby's off to a horrid start, but I think you see the makings of a team that is going to add Ronald Acuna Jr. at some point, whether it be in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. He's going to be back in the lineup, either as a DH or all the way back out there at some point, and that makes his team, even that much more dangerous once he comes back. So I think the fact this Braves team is holding its own, obviously Cincinnati and Washington, it's not the Blue Jays and the Dodgers the first two series, but you'll see the Padres and the Dodgers coming up as an early test. I'm not overly concerned with what they're doing. I think all the fanfare this first week has been awesome, from hoisting the championship banner to getting that celebration to the ring ceremony to last night the fans getting rings, replica rings. I think they're going to do that a couple more times. It's been a really cool start to the season. Don't get caught up to me in a couple of bad losses to the Nationals. Again, if it was June 20th and the Braves lost 11-2, nobody would say anything.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like, sometimes you just get your butt kicked, and that's all it is. When it comes, and people say it's baseball. It's really every sport where you see it. It's, sometimes you just get your butt kicked. You really don't know why. It just happens, and it's going to happen. So I don't read too much into it. Interesting to see this kid Bryce Elder make his start tonight, because I think one thing that has sustained the Braves is they've been really deep with pitching. And it's like, if this guy doesn't work, you go to that guy. If this guy doesn't work, you go to that guy. And the Braves have had that luxury.
Yeah, they have. And I even going back to what you said, Kevin, it kind of goes back to what you said about the eyes on baseball. The same scrutiny that the Braves are going through, you wouldn't have had that had you not got this done. And I think sometimes we forget, look, the Braves matter to baseball and they matter nationally. You can't say that about every team. The Braves are defending the World Series champ. So everything they do now is being talked about outside of Atlanta. It used to be, okay, yeah, Atlanta media, I get it. But now it's across baseball. The Braves are going to get a lot more primetime games this year. That partnership, they talking about those Friday night games. They're going to be one of those teams that's going to get a chance to be a part of that. But it's when you think about baseball, it's who fails the least. You're going to fail a lot in baseball, a lot. But so the guy that had the best season, man, I just didn't fail as much as the guys around me. But but I do think that when you think about this Braves team, a guy like Matt Olson, look, he's going to talk. They're going to. Hopefully, at a certain point, Snit won't talk about Freddie Freeman anymore. Like, look, man, we're not going to talk about Freddie Freeman anymore. We're obviously going to talk about it when the Dodgers do come to town, and we have to give him, his ring, because he was a big part. It's going to go from a lot of cheers to a lot of boos when he comes up for his first at bat. But this Braves team, I think, is built for the long haul, Kevin. You forget. they 2-3. You're going to get Ronald Acuna Jr., as you mentioned. You're going to get Mike Soroka, hopefully, at some time this season. That's the biggest question mark. You don't know when you're going to add him. How is he going to look whenever he does get back to lineup? But I don't think it's nothing to worry about too much. I think Dansby, just like Austin Riley a couple of years ago, might be pressing at the plate. Like, sometimes when you're coming off a season like that infield had last year, you can't live up to the billing of get back to just being comfortable. Good quality at bats. Don't be out there hacking at the freaking balls. It's going to be fine. But it is 5 games in. It is, talking about a Braves team that's got obviously postseason aspirations. Can't win the World Series in the first 5 games. The goal is to, make sure you're still in contention before the All-Star break. Put some distance between you and second and third place after the All-Star break. Get back to the playoffs and see what can happen. But I'm not getting too worried. I know BJ isn't on today. I know he will be. These games it's gonna be just fine. Look, man, we are talking about April, the 5th game. I think this Braves team is going to be just fine. The culture of the Braves to me is what keeps them afloat. I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, again, I'm interested to watch this team as they round into form and get back to full strength. Again, we've seen a team that made it through without Ronald Acuna Jr. And I think, I kind of went back when we were coming back from vacation. I sat down and watched some of the Braves highlights from a season ago because I was trying to get back into the season. And you realize that Ronald Acuna played about half the season, and you're like, what a weapon that guy is in the lineup. And you didn't have him for half the year, and you're missing that right now. A guy that, and you have some of it. I think Austin Riley, Matt Olin, but you start chaining those guys together in the order and say, man, I can't really pitch around this guy. I can't really pitch around this guy. And you do that from the jump when Acuna is in that leadoff spot. And I think it's going to be just a shot in the arm offensively when he comes back. And I hope that's sooner rather than later. We got so much to get to here on the show. We're getting close to the draft, coming off the Masters last week. You got the RBC on Hilton Head. So all kinds of things going on. We're glad that you are with us here on this Tuesday. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, and on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back on this Tuesday. 2 weeks away, a little bit more, a couple of days, 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. Ben, where are you sitting here as we're 2 weeks out? Pretty much all the pro days are done. It's all over but the drafting. Maybe a few trades, here and there. But a lot of people are sold. The Jags are going to take Aiden Hutchinson. But you've seen a lot of Trayvon Walker content. Apparently, Trip Baalke really likes the young man out of Georgia. Could be pre-draft smoke. Could be pre-draft hype. Could be diversion tactics to keep people on. But, I mean, I've never really understood, unless you're trying to trade the pick, the need for pre-draft diversion. And, I mean, again, you're picking number one. You can take whoever you want. Deking somebody out of who you're going to take at number one, I don't think really does anything. But where are you at here with Jacksonville? Is it going to be Aiden Hutchinson, or do you think that's been put out there? We've seen it year, time and time, where this guy's number one, this guy's number one, this guy's number one, this guy's number one, and then it's somebody else. Do you feel that's going to be it with the Jags when everybody seems like they're locked in on Aiden Hutchinson?
Yeah, I think it is going to be Aiden Hutchinson when it's all said and done. I think, Kevin, no pick is more scrutinized in the NFL than the number one overall pick. They try to nitpick every single thing about this person. Do I think that Aiden Hutchinson is the best player in this draft? No, I do not think he's the best player. But when you think about a guy who either, if it's not going to be a quarterback, it should be either a left tackle or a guy that chases quarterbacks. Does Aiden Hutchinson fit the bill? Yeah, coming from a big-time college. I mean, peaked, had an incredible year this year. Everybody talking about you don't want to watch the Georgia tape, but you know how many people want to throw out the Georgia tape? That will be everybody not named Alabama in the SEC championship game, because Alabama ain't going to be looking at the national championship. Georgia had their way with everybody this year. Trayvon Walker is a guy who be Kevin, who's definitely springing up these draft boards because of potential. He's a freak. He is a physical freak. What scares me about physical freaks is this: Trayvon Walker has about as much upside as you can get, but you can't negate who he was around. Like, if a guy's a physical freak and he's been a physical freak from day one, I get it. But I remember when you talk about a guy like Julius Peppers coming out of North Carolina. Well, he's a physical freak on the football field, and he was in the NCAA, and he was in the freaking NCAA tournament. Jadeveon Clowney, what did he do his junior year? Try not to get hurt. He had displayed everything his sophomore year to kind of show you. The thing about a guy like Trayvon Walker, we act like you ain't going to have Nakobe Dean or Wyatt or Jordan Davis or Tinsdale. You're going to have a bunch of guys assigned. There was a bunch of guys on that defense, but I will say Aiden Hutchinson, I always look at this. Whoever was the first name to come out before all the mock drafts, it was Aiden Hutchinson. Then here come the mock drafts, here come the pro days, here come the combines, here come the scrutiny. Now, if they get Trayvon Walker, I wouldn't be shocked, but at the same time, I just think Aiden Hutchinson, I think Kevin has to be the number one pick, has to be a guy that has tremendous potential, but the safe pick. And I think that's going to be Aiden Hutchinson when it's all said and done. I just think when you look at a team like Jacksonville's picking number one overall in back-to-back seasons, that means your team needs a lot. I mean, a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, you put him on the other side of a guy, like Josh Allen. You see the kind of moves they made in the offseason, as well as the draft. They should be. I don't know if they're going to contend in 2022, but yeah, for me, I think it's all smoke and mirrors. I think Jacksonville do not control the media, do not control these mock drafts. Everybody who got any type of platform got a freaking mock draft these days. It's going to be mock draft 7.0 before the freaking draft happens. But no, I think it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. It was 6'6", almost 6'7", 265, prototypical size, can turn the corner, everything you asked for. He's not built to stop the run now, but I think that's something you could definitely teach him. Trayvon Walker, a physical freak, with the measurables. But for me, Kevin, when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end out of Michigan.
I think it's going to be an interesting pick for Jacksonville because, again, we've seen it with the Atlanta Falcons franchise. You whiff on the defensive end.
Yeah.
And it really creates a lot of problems. You can whiff on an offensive tackle, and he's just, to me, not as good. To me, it seems like, Ben, you make a bad offensive tackle pick.
Yeah.
That's still a guy that's probably going to play 7 or 8 years in the league.
Yeah.
You make a bad defensive end pick, that guy's out of the league in 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's just a guy, and he didn't help you out. I mean, we've seen that with the Falcons time and time again, where, I mean, there were people that, have accused who is it? Sam Baker, first round pick, Atlanta Falcons. Was he a great tackle? No. Did he play in the league a long time? Yes, he did. And he was not considered to be a success as a first round tackle pick, much less the number one overall pick. So I just look at Jacksonville as like, if you are not 100% sold on Aiden Hutchinson, and he got, again, you keep going back to it, and I got annihilated by that Georgia offensive line.
Yeah.
And people say, well, outside of that, like, well, I'm sorry, you can't just throw out, I get they're outliers, but you can't just throw out the best competition you faced all season long and say, well, we're not going to watch that. Well, why not? You're going to see a league full of Georgia offensive lines. Probably see a league full of a lot of guys from Ohio State. I understand he did well there, but Georgia was the number one team in the country. You went up against them, and you got schemed out of the entire ball game.
Yeah.
And there was nothing you can do about it. And Ben, I know you said, look, great players can overcome schemes, right? If you get schemed against, you got to figure out a way to still make plays. I worry about that you go after a guy that the one thing that stands out in a negative light, everybody says, don't look at that. And I'm kind of going, well, why not? I mean, Trayvon Walker may not be the guy that gets it done for you either, but he's made a lot of plays against a lot of great, offensive lines as well there, and was making plays against Alabama, who wasn't their best offensive line. And when people say that, their line was, it's still pretty dang good offensive line. It just wasn't Alabama good. And he was still out there, making plays. So I'm interested to see what Jacksonville does. I'm starting to feel like Aiden Hutchinson would be a little bit of a smoke screen. They go somewhere else. But if they take him, I think that young man's got a lot to prove coming right in as a rush end. And you better be productive early.
Yeah, he does have a lot to prove. He's going to have a lot to prove, one, if he's the number one overall pick. Because let's face it, if I look at the perception of it, Kevin, if you're the number one pick in the NBA draft, you consider to be the best prospect coming out. You're the number one pick. Anthony Bennett, who went, number one overall.
I mean, like you said, whether that's true or not.
Exactly. Now, a guy like Aiden Hutchinson is what you said. It's almost like, well, what makes Travon Walker a better, prospect? Well, he was in the SEC. I was on the best team all year long. I was on the best defense all year long that was giving up 0 touchdowns. I mean, we shut out like 4 or 5 teams. Forget the SEC. In college football, that's unheard of, shutting teams out. I played beside, guys like Jordan Davis. I get it. But I'm going to go over. I'm going to be the number one. I'm going to be the first guy taken from that defense. And I didn't win. I was the first team All-American like Jordan Davis or the Butkus Award winner, like Nakobe Dean. And I did it against offenses every week. We go into a game talking about Tennessee, talking about Florida, talking about Kentucky, talking about South Carolina. Come out of the game, that wasn't much of it. They dominate those guys. Why? Well, look at the guys they have. So I do think Travon Walker is going to get a lot of attention because, Kevin, it's like that movie, I think, The Rookie or whatever it is with Dennis Quaid. Look, man, I got a dude 40-something years old throwing 90 miles an hour. Now, if I call my boss and say I got a 40-something-year-old throwing 90 miles an hour, he going to laugh at me. But if I don't call him, I'm going to lose my freaking job. Travon Walker, you got to give him a look because nowadays the picks are, can this dude hurt us if we don't get him? What if he gets picked in our division and we got to deal with him for the next, Cam Newton was the number one overall pick in that draft. Who was number 2? Von Miller. They beat each other in the Super Bowl. Von Miller, Super Bowl MVP. That's what really goes into these picks. But look, I do think Aiden Hutchinson understands. If I'm the number one overall pick, I have to come in. I got to stop the run. And Tim, they're gonna talk about it. Hey man, Warren McClendon, how good is he? Well, because when we saw him against you, it was bad. I had to ask, which one is the number one overall pick? The guy that's getting pancake. Oh, not the guy that's. Oh, I thought it was. So I do think he got a lot to prove. I think he'll be fine. I think it just comes with being a number one overall pick or a first round pick in general. But like I said, if you are Jacksonville, you get your pick a little. All of them looking at you. You got to pick the best one. I don't think I'm pretty firm it's not going to be a quarterback. I'm pretty good. It's not going to be outside of that. I think all bets is off.
Well, speaking of all bets are off, do you have any idea what Atlanta is going to do? And again, because you look at these mock drafts and it's all over the place, from wide receiver to safety to do they take an offensive lineman? If they can get one, does a defensive lineman drop in that fits? It is literally mock draft all over the place, and a lot of people think the draft is going to turn on what Atlanta decides to do because it could start a run on a certain position. Do you have any clue what Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith are trying to do there at 8?
I do not.
And we're 2 weeks out from this.
Yeah, I do not. I've seen if Kayvon Thibodeau drops, maybe you get him. I've seen, if Kyle Hamilton drops, you get him. I've seen, wide receivers. I've seen, different wide receivers, Garrison, Gary Wilson, or Drake London. The thing about it is, Kevin, they got so many holes to fill. I mean, yes, they've sort of kind of addressed some things in the offseason, but you're getting guys that, their contracts ain't making, ESPN bottom line. They ain't breaking news.
Right.
Because, they ain't breaking the bank. But if a defensive end is there, like a Kayvon Thibodeau, I think you have to get him because you need a defensive end so bad. I mean, and I know they got Lorenzo Carter, former Georgia Bulldog, but I mean, he's been in the league 4 years now. He has 11 and a half, I think 14 and a half career sacks. That's in 4 years. So and he signed a 1-year deal. That's another proven deal. So we'll see, Kevin. But yeah, once again, Atlanta, they're gonna do the little, like the lottery. They're gonna put their hand in there, whatever they pull out, because they need so much. But I think if a defensive end is there, they get them. But I would not be shocked if they did not go offensive and get a wide receiver, because that offensive line, my goodness, man. If Evan Neal is there, we'll see what happens, because the draft is so crazy. Those top 5 picks will decide just what type of talent they get to pick from.
Yeah, I think Atlanta might be a candidate to trade back, but they need so much.
They do.
So much help all over the place. We'll see what they decide to do. Again, it's coming up about 2 weeks, a little bit more than 2 weeks until we get to draft night number 1 coming up. We'll come back. We've got a big week this week. College football, spring practices taking place, coming to an end. Georgia, I think, gets the Christian Gokel, second down, was kind of noted Georgia Bulldog fan Christian Gokel was like, Georgia's got their spring game this week. I was like, oh yeah, it's like he's like, they're playing the heat of the day. It's like, why? So they can be on SEC network. And I was just asking the question. And he goes, no, when you're defending champs, you get ESPN2. I was like, okay then. He said they put Alabama on SEC network. They got those dogs on ESPN2. I was like, there you go. So Georgia's spring practice coming to it.
Which going to air on SEC Network sometime next week during the week.
So Georgia's spring practice coming to an end on Friday. Florida's coming to an end on Thursday. Yes. So 2 days, they will have the spring game. David Waters, Gators Breakdown, will join us when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. Spring practices winding down. Florida's got a spring game coming up on Thursday. Here to chat with us about that from Gators Breakdown, David Waters joins us here on the show. David, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Like you said, a couple more days till we get to see Billy Napier's team for the first time in his image.
All right, so David, Thursday. Why Thursday? We've seen a lot of programs do the Thursday night, Friday night thing. Not so much in the SEC. Why is Florida going Thursday night?
Yeah, I think it definitely caught some people off guard when Florida originally did schedule it for this Saturday. But about 2 weeks ago, decided to move it to Thursday. And I think if you look at the schedule on Saturday, you can probably see why. Alabama has their spring game on Saturday. Georgia, I think Tennessee, South Carolina, some of the Florida schools have their Saturday as well. FSU had theirs last week, so you don't have to worry about that one. But it was getting kind of crowded Saturday for spring game. So I believe the major reason, the crowd, just your normal fan crowd probably won't be that big, it being on a Thursday. But you can best bet now your recruiting crowd, all the recruits that may have been split between Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and Tennessee, and South Carolina. But with a recruit had interest in all those schools, well, now Florida's by themselves on Thursday night. So if you got some guys that can make the drive, especially in driving distance of Gainesville, don't get out of school on Thursday, probably don't have school on Friday because of Good Friday and the Easter holiday. So now they can ride to Gainesville and take go to that game, take in that game before they go off to Georgia or Alabama on Saturday. So I think it was a smart move by Billy Napier to get recruits in and let recruits see this team for the first time under Billy Napier. But it probably will hold the fans back a bit.
All the injuries that Florida has had to deal with this spring. I mean, what should we expect on Thursday? Obviously, it's going to be scripted, but what should be the expectation come Thursday? We're dealing with trying to make sure you might be just counting healthy bodies on the orange and the blue team.
Yeah, Bill, Ben, for sure. You're looking at the tight end position in particular for where Florida's the injuries have kind of added up, and you had a transfer as well. With Gage Wilcox transferring out, and then the injuries to Nick Elksmith and Jonathan Odom. So Florida, luckily, Dante Zanders, who had played some tight end, moved to defense, and now moved back to tight end, has impressed the coaches of the last couple of weeks of him having to step in. So it gives Florida another option besides Keon Zipper on Thursday night there. But Ben, I mean, just kind of going through and what we're looking at, of course, we want to see some single players. We want to see Anthony Richardson and the quarterbacks play well. We want to see some big runs from the running backs. That's kind of lacked from Florida the last few years, tackling and physicality on defense. But, Ben, that's kind of where I'll go. The tackling, the physicality, all the things that you can control. That's what I want to see Thursday night. I want to see a team play smart and not have a lot of penalties. I want to see the effort out there. I want to see the physicality. And like Billy Napier has said, do the things that you can control. I mean, that's what Florida can control. Going out there. Of course, we want a clean performance from the quarterbacks, no interceptions or limited interceptions, limited turnovers altogether. Maybe the defense of trying to create some turnovers. That's the beauty of spring ball. One player does well, on the same team, another player does bad. So you got to kind of figure out how to checks and balances for a spring game. But being really just a lot of the basics: tackle, no turnovers, play some smart football, no penalties. Those are the first things that I'll be looking for Thursday night.
And David, I know Billy Napier's come in and kind of tried to spice things up. Do you expect the spring game to be kind of bland from that perspective? Obviously, you're thin at some spots, and it may not necessarily be true 1v1s. In a lot of cases, do you expect it to be kind of let's not show much situation where I know people like to read in those spring games, but you think it'll be pretty vanilla and just get out of there and hope nobody gets injured much?
I think a little bit, but also Billy Napier's offense, just in general. It's not fun and gun Steve Spurrier. It's not Florida 2020 offense. One reason, because of what Florida has. Florida's deep at running back. Florida has an experienced offensive line. Florida's going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to run the ball in spring game Thursday night. They're going to want to run the ball coming up this season. So that might sound boring, but that's what Florida is built for. So I think we'll see plenty of that Thursday night. And I think the biggest question is, and they haven't told us yet, but the team will be broken up into two separate teams, of course, split into two teams. And those two teams are going to practice this week with those teams. So it won't be brand new teams. They'll be kind of used to playing with each other when they head out on the field Thursday night. But we don't know how that's going to be broken up. We don't know if it's 1 versus 2s, if it's going to be mixed match, and how the two teams will be constructed. I'd like to probably see 1s versus 2s because at least you get your starting offensive line, your starting defensive line used to playing together. The quarterback 1 playing with the wide receiver, the first team wide receiver. So I think it would probably benefit, but Billy Napier knows he'll forget more football than I'll ever know, so he knows how to do this. But for me, just to kind of maybe glean a little more out of it, I would like to see the first team offense versus the first team defense. That's how it's going to be broken up, just so we get some semblance of some competition, and maybe we can take away a little more. But as you said, you start getting in a little bit of trouble when you start wanting to take away a lot of these. A lot of takeaways from spring games because they're going to work on things that they have struggled on. They're going to work on certain things they want to see, how Anthony Richardson reacts to a certain defense, how a defense reacts to a running quarterback, all those things like that. So they'll be working on some things that they want to see from a coaching staff as well.
And Dave, I know obviously us being 2 days away from the spring game, how would you judge Billy Napier first spring? I mean, he came in with a splash. I mean, made sure that he was, coaching the Sun Belt championship game before he did, take over full time at Florida. You look at all the different coaches he's brought in. You look at what he did in the transfer portal. You look at what he did with the recruiting class. How would you rate his first spring?
Yeah, I mean, you hear the same message from a lot of the players. I know you've had them on podcasts, you've talked to them, and I've talked to a few players. We get media sessions with them as well, and attention to detail is something that keeps coming up. But then, more likely, it does seem like he has gotten through to the players that he cares. That he cares in fixing living arrangements, that he's cared in fixing food arrangements and the parking situation where now the player's like, hey, why wasn't this stuff kind of done before? So I think once you kind of build that culture where guys start looking at, they care more, they feel that there is a sense of care more from the coaching staff. And then I think that grows and disperses out to the players. The players start caring about each other just a little bit more. Then you want to go play. You want to go play harder out there for your teammates and for your coaches. You don't want to disappoint each other. So I think it's more of a culture thing. And look, I know that sounds cliche when the new head coach comes in. Everybody says, "Oh, the culture is different," but Ben, you know just as good as I do, some of the issues that Florida has really kind of dealt with the last couple of seasons, kind of dating back to the end of that 2020 season, a lack of accountability, a lack of trust. Well, it does seem like Billy Napier is trying to put in the foundation, put in the groundwork to turn those things around, and there's some immediate results already that we can tell.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown, joining us here on 3 and Out. And David, what has been decided, if anything, in spring ball? You talked about cliches, so I'll throw one out there. It's like, it's open competition. Has anything been decided, wrapped up, so to speak, here in spring to where, barring injury, these positions are already settled going into the fall?
Yeah, I still think, going back to the beginning of spring and going to now, I would say Anthony Richardson would be first team starting quarterback. Now, if he goes out there Thursday and has a really good performance, I do wonder. I've asked myself this question. I've asked some of my listeners this question. If he does go out there, Anthony Richardson, and has a really good performance, would Billy Napier go ahead and name him the starter, or would there be some gamesmanship of trying to keep it a little bit secret because you played Utah game one? You don't necessarily want to, let them game plan against him. But there's some film out there from him last year. It could benefit the team to know who the leader is at quarterback and rally around him through the summer and going into fall camp. Offensive line, I think probably one of the biggest surprises are Josh Braun. He may be more of a backup role at that right guard spot behind Osiris Torrance. But Florida's starting five at offensive line probably solidified already with some guys who played a lot of football last year. You got some transfers, as I mentioned, Osiris Torrance from Louisiana. Maybe the new part would be Michael Tarquin at right tackle. So offensive line may be a little more solidified by someone we didn't see. Tarquin taking over more so for Josh Braun, and Josh Braun being that backup piece more on the inside and not the outside. And defense, DeJuan Black at linebacker, he's really shown out through spring. I think Ventrell Miller will head up that Mike linebacker spot right there in the middle of that defense. But DeJuan Black at the will linebacker spot, I think gives Florida some experience with Ventrell Miller, and then gives that linebacker core a lot of athletic versatility with the one black at the wheel spot. So all the other spots, Jason Marshall at cornerback 1, I think that's solidified right there. No surprise there. But I still think we'll go into fall with a lot of other those defensive position battles going on.
Yeah, you talk about Billy Napier coming in and making sure these players know that he cares. When you talk about the food situation, you talk about the parking situation, but some of these coaches he brought in are big time. And you talk about Mike Peterson, you talk about Corey Raymond, you talk about Sean Spencer, Captain Chaos. Talk about the coaching staff a little bit and how they've made their impression felt with these guys in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, but that's probably one of the things I've been impressed with so much. Or this whole spring, all these whole press conferences are the first time we've gotten to speak to these new coaches that Billy Napier's brought in. I've been impressed with pretty much all of them. Jay Bateman, at linebacker, was thought to be kind of this hard-nosed, Army background, comes over from North Carolina. I thought he was pretty personable in his approach. But listening to these cornerbacks, speaking to the detail that Corey Raymond brings as the defensive backs coach that they necessarily didn't have before, and how just one little misstep can be the difference in how they're playing and what your eyes are doing, pre-snap, during the play, and all that, and how it just makes those little bit of differences. The attention to detail, not only from Napier but from these coaches as well. And Pegler, the tight end coach, he comes over from Michigan State as the running backs coach. Was Football Scoop's running backs coach of the year last year, and never coached running backs. He gets that award last year, and now is the first-time tight end coach. And now he's dealing with all these injuries, but he was still upbeat last week when we talked to him. You hope that he would be able to replicate his success at the running back position at Michigan State last year, do the same thing at the tight end position for Florida this year. So, Ben, a lot of these players wanted a couple of coaches from the last half to hang around because they were comfortable. But I do think it has come around pretty quick. That what we have seen through talking to these coaches, that I think you can see why these players have quickly caught on about all the culture change going on with Billy Napier and his staff.
David Waters, Gators Breakdown, our guest here on 3 and Out. Spring game coming up on Thursday night there in Gainesville. David, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
David Waters joining us here, Gators Breakdown on 3 and Out. And Ben, as he said, going to Thursday night. Why? Because, recruits can show up on Thursday night when you're the only game in town.
Yeah, and then when he get to breaking down how many teams actually got their spring games on Saturday, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. You don't want to be, you talk about picking programming. Obviously you're going to get your fan base, but you're going to get all eyes on you. And whenever you can cater to the current crop of players that being recruiting the lifeblood of any college program, Kevin, I understand if you had some plans for Saturday, you got the, hotels, what may have you. Hey, Billy Napier trying to do what's best for the orange and blue. We'll see you in the swamp on Thursday night.
There you go. And George has got theirs coming up on Saturday, as they will be the defending national champs, finishing up there in spring ball. We'll talk more about that coming up later this week. We've got more to come here. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Also streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. You also follow us live streaming video as well, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Speaking of spring games, Ben Troop, Auburn had theirs over the weekend. Former Benedictine quarterback Holden Gerner, 9 of 11, 71 yards and a touchdown under 30 seconds to try to tie the game up. And I think they went for 2 in the spring game because who wants to play overtime in the spring, right? And they didn't get it, but let them down the field with a chance to tie it up in the spring game. 9 of 11, 71 yards and TD.
You want to know why these young guns coming in should scare you? Because you can put fear in your heart if you are already on the team. Guys don't show up early, graduate early from high school because they ain't ready. They do that because they are. Oh, yes. And the last time we saw him, he was throwing bombs in the Mercedes-Benz Dome.
And Georgia State.
Yes, I'm sorry, Georgia State.
It was outside. It's yeah.
Apologize.
But yeah, obviously not much drop off there. Moving on to Auburn, but I know he has gotten a lot of raves from Brian Harsin. And their quarterback situation is a little bit up. I know they got a transfer in that I think people expect to start, but with what he's done in the spring, a lot of people talk about his poise and the way he can run the offense under control. Never say never, been at the end of the day.
Coach Harsin needs all the good publicity he can get at this point. He wants to get as far away from last season as he possibly can. But yeah, the young man out of Benedictine really, really looking good, Kevin. I mean, if it's close, it's going to go to the young guy. But that lets the guy that transferred in. He thought, hey, man, we didn't know this kid was going to be this good. So, yes, they're going to give it to the transfer now because he's coming in with college experience. But that don't mean he's going to be the starter at the end of the year. We'll see what happens come the fall.
Ben, speak to that. I mean, you talk all the time about, hey, I came in as a freshman, like, your eyes were that big.
Yes.
Talk about playing, and we've seen it more and more as the season going. True freshman starting SEC and all that is encompassed in being the starting quarterback, not just at a major college, but just a starting quarterback in college. You got about a minute.
So much more pressure on these guys, Kevin, because you've seen some really, really good true freshman quarterbacks come in and have success. That's not the barometer for every quarterback, but if you show glimpses of a guy that did it at a previous school, that gives you a one-up on the guy that's already there. It's all about recruiting. And if this was supposed to be his senior year of high school, or at least his second semester, he's already in school. That means the guy seems to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be. Look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there at Auburn. I think Ben said it. Like, they are one of the more intriguing stories to follow. They could finish last. They could be right up there. I mean, who knows what happens there at Auburn? We got more to come here on 3 and Out. Rich Styles. We'll talk some Masters with him. RBC Heritage this week as well on Hilton Head. He'll join us next hour. We'll take 3 next here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out, on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, or Ben, as I tried to call you back in hour number 1. Glad you're with us here on the show.
Coach Kelly it's from the Bayou all the way to the coast.
Yes, I went to the Brian Skelly School of Dialect over my vacation. It was a fun trip. Should very much take your family when you get a moment. But no, so much to get to this hour. Rich Styles is going to join us, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, coming off a tremendous Masters there in Augusta. You got the RBC Heritage coming up on Hilton Head this week as well. So he'll join us coming up in just a little bit. That being said, Ben, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, take 1. What are you looking forward to most at the UGA spring game coming up on Saturday?
Well, I mean, I want to be able to see how that D line gonna look, replacing guys like a Trayvon Walker, like guys like Jordan Davis. I mean, but I'm gonna be looking to see really mostly Stetson Bennett, just showing why he is the clear cut number 1. I know it's always this fake controversy. We wanted to be a quarterback controversy, going in the spring because that just sounds good. Stetson Bennett has meant more to this Georgia football team in the last 3 years than anybody I've ever seen. That's taking nothing away from what Jake Fromm was able to do in his 3 years there. So I think to watch Stetson Bennett solidify himself as the clear-cut number 1, who's going to be that solid number 2? Are they going to try to run the football? Who's going to be the receivers? Because I know George Pickens missed all last year, was able to come back in the playoffs, and obviously in the national championship. I mean, Burton, I think he's moved on to Alabama now. So who's going to be the receivers? Who's going to be the tight ends? Because Darnell Washington, Brock Bowers, but really D-line, Stetson, backup QBs, and receivers.
I'm interested in the quarterback spot. I know that's the sexy thing to say, and I'm not even so concerned about Stetson, Ben. I think Stetson's going to be the starter. But to me, the intrigue is if Brock Vandagriff is number 2 coming out of spring. I mean, people were surprised Carson Beck's still there now.
Yeah.
Is Carson Beck still sticking around? Did he stick around just for spring to see if he could be the number 2 guy, i.e., I'm a twisted ankle away from being the guy? I mean, that's right. I mean, that's basically how Stetson Bennett became the starter, right? JT Daniels had a little bit of an injury. Stetson comes in, he wins games. We're not going to take him out. We're winning games, right? I mean, so I think that's very interesting to see what Carson Beck does in the spring game, and if that affects his decision. If he comes out of the spring, if it's like, hey, no, you're not number 1, you're number 2, or you're number 3 rather. Does he transfer? Does he stick it out? Is he, look, I just wanted me, again, from all you read, Brock Vandagriff and soon to be Gunnar Stockton, they all want to be Georgia Bulldogs. Well, can't one person play at a time, Ben, as you know, at the quarterback spot. So what is the takeaway post-spring? And I know it's a spring game. What they do probably in that game doesn't mean a hill of beans. Could it affect 2 or 3? Maybe. But I'm interested to see what Carson Beck does in the game and what happens post-game if he does decide to transfer after the fact.
It's going to be your last impression, Kevin, before you come back for the summer. So like when it comes to coaching at any level, I mean, every time you go out there as a player, that's when you're making your impressions for you're trying to gain trust of the coach. Stetson Bennett has done that over the last 3 years. And obviously, the icing on the cake was the national championship, getting back from a loss, that you suffered against that same team just 3 or 4 weeks earlier in the SEC championship game. If you start talking about Carson Beck, you start talking about, Vandagriff and those guys, you got to prove that you can be relied upon. The thing about the quarterback position of any position in sports is trust. You got to have the trust of your teammates. You got to have the trust of the coaching staff. You got to have the trust of your head coach. So I think with that backup quarterback spot you're right, Kevin. It's like, look, that transfer portal, it's going to be serious after the spring game. Because now guys really know, because they know, especially if you've been here, if I'm a freshman, I'm naive. I don't know what the spring really means yet. I'm still comparing spring college football to spring high school football. It is not the same. Coming out of the spring, guys are going to be saying, I ain't kidding myself no more, man. I've been here a couple of years. I know how this goes. And I know there's another recruiting cycle coming in 2023. So I'm not dealing with this another year. So, yes, Kevin, I do think that quarterback room definitely number 2 and number 3. Whoever's, because JT Daniels, he still ain't figured out where he's gonna go in the transfer portal. But I do think, that second and third, because like you said, Kevin, that is a good way to look at it. You a twisted ankle away. You a bad hit away from being the starter. But number 2 and number 3 in college might as well be number 2 and number 10. Number 3 will not get in the regular season.
All right, moving on. Take 2. Hawks. I think the actual play-in round starts tonight, but the Hawks play the Charlotte Hornets in the play-in round tomorrow. Do the Hawks have playoff magic in them, Ben? Or has this team just lost some of its mojo from a year ago?
I do think they got playoff magic in them, Kevin. But the problem is, I mean, you're going up against, a team, like Charlotte. I mean, you talking about like, LaMelo Ball and those guys. They're going to go out there and really make it happen. They're a young scrapper team, and a guy with, Michael Jordan's, team, by the way, who want to go out there and try to do. They kind of want to be the Hawks of 2021 and 2022. Let it be this young team who really been scratching and clawing, kind of building through the draft, trying to take that time. And you got a young superstar like LaMelo Ball. He's not, Trae Young, but he ain't, as far as like the future faces of the NBA, he's definitely that. This kid is flat out, our box office. But I think this Hawks team the problem is the East has gotten really, really good. I mean, the East has got, they top to bottom, they're really, really good, starting with the Heat. You're talking about Milwaukee. I just think that for this Hawks team, if they can get in, Kevin, I mean, you get the kind of ebbs and flows of a series, because I'm seeing what our weaknesses are, what our strengths are. To me, it comes down with the Hawks one thing. Can you be active on the defensive end? You don't have to be locked down. You don't have to make that your moniker. Can you be active on the defensive end? If they can find a way to get in the playing game, I think that make them a very dangerous team, because it seems like the teams like Milwaukee and the Heat, they seem to play the best teams in that conference a little bit better than the lower echelon teams.
Yeah, it seems like they just never have found it this year. I know they made the coaching change. I went with Nate McMillan. They took off in an extra gear, but it seems like they never really found it this year. They were so far behind right out of the gate, playing so poor early that they never really got their way back in it. And they said they got to win one to get in. I mean, you're in that playing game against Charlotte. Is there anything more random? Maybe and maybe not. Is there anything more random than one baseball game or one NBA game? I mean, it's like anything can happen in one game.
It's not a true depiction of, like the teams themselves. It's like the playing game in MLB. All right, so we get one game to get in, and that team ends up going really, really far, because once again, did we really supposed to be here?
Well, yeah,
yes and no, because you did get in. But I think with the Hawks though, they're gonna have to put their best foot forward. Like, that kind of gets you ready for the playoffs. And look, this is our season. If we lose, that's it. We already can plan our vacations. If not, we get a chance to go in, because I don't care if you're number 1 or you're number 8. You find a way to get in that thing. I think this Hawks team got a shot, Kevin, if they do get in, but that Charlotte team is not going to make life easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll see. I feel like this team has never really hit that spurt like they did when they made that coaching change and just went there. And by and large, Ben, it's the same players.
Yeah.
Large, I mean, there's been a few changes, don't get me wrong, but by and large, it's the same players you had last year. All right, moving on, take 3. Draft coming up in a little more than 2 weeks. How random do you think the draft actually is? Because Trent Baalke is going to get a lot of crap regardless of what happens at number 1, right? I mean, if it's great, Aiden Hutchinson's great, they'll be like, well, he got lucky. If he stinks, they'll be like, Trent Baalke stinks, doesn't know how to draft talent. Same thing could be said over on the Falcons side with, Terry Fontenot. Oh, Terry Fontenot just botched the draft. Well, did he? Or did some things break? Like, how random do you think this is? Because, again, in your draft experience, people were saying, hey, you could be a first-round pick. You weren't. You were a second-round pick. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but it's like, it is so random pick to pick. I'm cruising along. Draft's going good for me. I'm at pick 10. Pick 9 takes the guy I really want. Now I have to go back to plan B. Plan B didn't fit as good as plan A did. And now all of a sudden I'm a draft bum because my draft didn't work out.
It's gonna be very, very random and very, very unpredictable, Kevin, as well it should be, right? What the thing about the draft that we don't give enough credit for is how copycat it is. No one wants to be able to say, like, they want the oohs and the eyes. Oh, that's a good, but they got that guy. And you got to live with it. You got to live with whatever pick you get. Until I don't see, 3, maybe 4 quarterbacks go in the first round. I know everybody's talking about Pickett and Willis. Then I'm seeing some Howell. Then I'm seeing some Corral. I'm telling, and the thing about it is too, Kevin, look, the most unpredictable one might be pick 1. We think it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. At first, it was supposed to be Evan Neal. Javon Walker is a freak. We just don't know, and that's what makes the NFL draft, or really the first round, so intriguing is we just don't know. Like, it's that when you go, what? And then because think about if you're on these teams, if you are Sam Darnold or Cam Newton in Carolina and they get a quarterback, one of y'all got to go. If not all of y'all, they're going to keep one because they don't want to just throw the young guy in there. If you are Atlanta, if Atlanta gets a quarterback, with all this time we've been hearing about, oh, you got Marcus Mariota, and you want to get a receiver, you want to get a defensive player, you want to get a defensive piece. I mean, I just think that what I find to be the most intriguing thing about the draft is we don't know. We're not in these draft rooms. I was home 2005 when we got Pac-Man Jones, who was the #1 defensive player taken in the 2005 draft. Keith Bullock had a celebrity basketball game. This is how much we knew about Pac-Man. They stopped the game. They said the Titans just selected Pac-Man Jones, cornerback out of West Virginia. We looked around each other. Passed the ball. No one knew who Pac-Man was. Obviously, he ended up having an incredible career, even though he had his ups and downs. 2006, we get Vince Young. Got Vince Young in the first round, got Lindell White in the second round. While I wanted Vince Young because obviously I saw what he did in that Rose Bowl, come to find out, Jeff Fisher wanted Matt Leinart. Why? USC. I mean, Jeff Fisher went to USC. You got USC ties, obviously, with Matt Leinart. But, I mean,
you said what Norm Chow was
Norm Chow was the offensive coordinator. But, I mean, Mr. Adams, the owner, from Houston. Well, where's Vince Young from? He's from Houston. Who did Mr. Adams also, Bud Adams also draft? That would be A1 Steve McNair, right? Who was in the Houston Oilers. Who was a mentor to Vince Young? That would be Steve McNair. And we had a celebrity like softball game that Vince Young and Steve McNair was out there, and it was also almost like passing the torch. But Kevin, like I said, these draft rooms, they only show them like when they say, "All right, the pick is up." They don't show the chaos. Then when they show all the handshakes and the high fives when you get the pick. But I hear that outside of Mike Vrabel, I don't know what his draft room be looking like. I mean, he got people doing all kind of stuff. I think the draft is about as unpredictable as it gets. I think it's gonna be wild this year too.
Yeah, and again, if the Jags don't pick Aiden Hutchinson, that messes everything up from the jump. So it's like, I mean, it's one of those things where I just look at the draft and it's hey, this guy's a bum. This guy doesn't know how to draft. This guy never has good drafts. Now, when you make trades and those trades don't pan out, I think maybe that works. But if you go straight draft and you're like, man, just the numbers, as you have often said, the numbers tell you that at least half of your draft class isn't going to pan out, right? I mean, like you want them to, you really need them to, but the numbers say half of them aren't going to make it more than 2 years.
Well, yes. I mean, look, the thing about it is, Kevin, we had to say, oh my God, they got him. Dude.
So really everybody stinks at drafting.
Somebody said this. How many draft picks can we remember the year prior? We only know the stars. Like, who don't know who, I don't know, Odell Beckham Jr. is. Who don't know? Tom Brady got drafted in 2000, and he's still there. I'm pretty sure he's the last remaining guy on the 2000 draft class. But I just think sometimes, Kevin, it's always, we could have got that guy. We could have got that guy. Well, no, you're only going to get one. You looked in the basket that had, 200-some guys in it.
I mean, just think about how random it potentially is. I mean, Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. Was Aaron Rodgers a guy that they were like, oh, man, this guy's going to be a stud?
Really
or at mid-20s, where they sitting there going, well, we need a quarterback. Yep. He's there.
And we like him. He didn't play for 3 years.
I'm saying we like him.
Yes.
We'll take him.
Yes.
And you now we're like, oh, he's the modern day GOAT. It's like,
you never know. Alex Smith was the #1 pick in the 2005 draft, right? I remember when A-Rod was sitting in there in the green room, like, yeah, man, talking real somber and all this. We look at what guys become. Man, we could have had Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, based off what, 16, 17 years later? No, it's you got Peyton Manning for 14 years. When he misses his last year, who do you get? Andrew Luck. I mean, sometimes the football guys just open up the gates and they get. But where is he? He's no longer with the team.
But there was a debate about whether you should take him or RG3. I mean,
who went number 2? RG3 was at the combine throwing footballs to the draftees. He works for ESPN now. So I just think Kevin too. Once again, even though he's no longer with the Falcons, you want to draft a Matt Ryan. You want to draft a guy that's going to be there for a decade plus, going to take you from the dark ages to perennial playoffs, hopefully go to a Super Bowl, win an MVP. Not his fault you lost the Super Bowl, because most guys, they're not going to do that. I mean, Baker Mayfield was the #1 overall pick 5 years ago, and he's not going to be a Cleveland Brown. They got another quarterback, not named Baker Mayfield. So I just think that Kevin, we don't know. We just look at how guys end up and say, man, we could have had that guy.
Yeah, totally. I mean, random. I do think there is some science to it, but to me, just random how it all kind of plays out. We've got more to come. Rich Styles back. 9 Boys set to join us. Unbelievable Masters setting up for a nice week there at the RBC Heritage on Hilton Head. This is 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here. 3 and Out. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Thanks for being with us. You can catch us streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our YouTube channel at ESPN Coastal. Check us out there as well. ESPNCoastal.com for a live audio stream going on as well. We'll hear from Rich Stiles coming up in just a little bit. But Ben, want to touch back on something we were talking about. Georgia and the spring game, and who potentially transfers afterwards. And how many guys do you think we'll see transfer after spring practice? And is that actually a better way to do it in a lot of cases rather than guys bailing late season, mid season, right after the season is over? I know there's a lot of pressure to go ahead and get your name, Spencer Rattler, guys like that, go ahead and jump in the portal. But why don't more guys stick it out through spring to see where they land on that depth chart before they jump out into what is becoming a extremely crowded transfer portal?
I think the guys that wait till after to do it right after the season, they kind of see the writing on the wall already, realize I'm not going to put myself through another spring, especially when I'm going to have to deal with another recruiting cycle coming up. I think the guys that wait till after the spring, Kevin, they kind of get to see, okay, have I gotten better in another year? Have I moved up in the depth chart? Have I created a role? Because the hardest thing in college to do is to create a role for yourself. And the position you got to be the most patient at is the quarterback position. The quarterback position and O-line. Because those guys those are 6 positions. They are not interchangeable. They are not coming out. They play every snap unless it's garbage time. And then, the second stringers get in. But I do think when you talk about guys who decide to wait to transfer in the spring, those guys, one, they got a better understanding of the transfer portal, hopefully. They got a better understanding of, okay, I really can go to a team to where I can really be having a chance to, compete for snaps in the fall and the summer. And Kevin, they farther along in college. Like, the thing about college is the farther along you get into it, the more you better understand it. You're not the same student you are as a junior that you were as a freshman. You understand the schedule. Same thing goes with sports. And I think you can accept the truth more. It's hard to accept the truth when you're a freshman. Everything sounds like criticism. What you mean I got to work on this? What you mean I'm not big enough? What you mean I'm not strong enough? We brought you in here because you have potential. Once we put our spin on you, then you should be ready. But I think junior, my senior year, the only reason why I knew I was ready because I had went through the X. I wasn't ready for 3 years. I was talented enough, but I wasn't ready. Talent alone is not enough. Like, he's talented, or not to call anybody out, but Aaron Murray saying, I think Carson Beck got the biggest arm at Georgia. And who's the best quarterback? So I think that after the spring, Kevin, you got more of a barometer of, okay, number one, I'm in good shape. I came through another spring healthy. I can really reach out to a coach now and say, hey, I'm really going to do this. You really got a spot for me. It's almost like you learn how to recruit yourself at that point. No more, everybody got to do it for you. But I will say this, one time should be a charm. These guys that, not to call them out, but all these, this is second school, third school. Look, you got to pick a school at a certain point and stick with it because, unfortunately, you got 85 scholarship guys. A bunch of guys going to go through college and not going to play. Like it's what we talked about, Kevin, with minor league baseball. You know how hard it is to make it to the bigs? You got to gut it out. But I do think the guys that go through the spring, they are going to be highly sought after guys. And Kevin, think about this too. Do I stay P5? Do I go G5 and get a chance to play? Do I go HBCU and get it? Because at the end of the day, do you want to play or do you want to be a brand ambassador for a big brand?
Yeah, look, I think it's very interesting just to see post spring who decides to transfer. As you said, maybe that's more of the writing on the wall. But I like you said, I get weary of guys who have transferred two or three times and say, look, I get one. I'm going to move. It's like there's probably a reason at some point why you keep moving. And it's probably not because all the teams weren't the right fit. Yeah. Maybe it was you at that point. But I do wonder that interesting to see how this plays out at Georgia, specifically right here in our state, to say, hey, if Carson Beck's number 2 coming out of spring, is that enough to make him want to stay? Is that enough? And again, I'm not trying to force him out, but all the talking points have been Brock Vandagriff, 4 or 5-star quarterback.
Yeah.
Gunnar Stockton, 4 or 5-star quarterback.
Yeah.
Your 4-star quarterback hasn't played a whole lot yet. You're all behind Stetson Bennett. Only one of y'all can play. and one of you is running out of years, and that's Carson Beck. If you want to play, and as you said, Ben, they'll always look to play the younger guy who you can have potentially more time with. But Kirby Smart's feeling it from another front. It's like, hey, I want to continue to recruit 5-star quarterbacks. As we were talking about this off the air. Okay, Gunnar Stockton, big time recruit. Brock Vandagriff, big time recruit. Carson Beck was a 4-star recruit. Oh, there's a guy that George is also in on, named Arch Manning.
Yep.
I'm just saying,
who you already know, wherever he signs, I hope you're getting ready to get out of there.
That's what I'm saying. So, I think Kirby Smart's looking at it and saying, look, if you're a quarterback and say, look, if Arch Manning comes here, I think I can beat him out, but what if I don't? I think you have there's pressure to play guys if you're Kirby Smart. Obviously, they're not going to stop recruiting guys at the quarterback spot. And if you're coming out of spring and I'm Carson Beck and you're still third, maybe you're even like fake second. And you say that because he was kind of fake second last year.
Yeah.
JT Daniels goes down. Oh, Carson Beck's here. Nope. Stetson jumps over everybody and comes in. If I'm Carson Beck, I'm evaluating all that.
I think about this with Kevin. People, listen, I'm going to say this and people can get mad at me. Recruiting is bigger than the national championship. It is bigger than it. No, it ain't big. Yes, it is. Because it doesn't stop. The recruiting never stops now. Like, when the last time Michigan won a national championship? They just as big of a brand as Georgia is. When the last time Florida won that championship? Just as big of a brand. Now, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, I get it. Clemson has one bad year. We don't even talk about them. Had one bad year.
It really wasn't that bad.
Exactly. They still won 10 games. Oh, my God, they're the worst. Recruiting is the lifeblood. Arch Manning. Huh? The nephews of Eli and Peyton, right? I think what's happening is, Kevin, it's one of those things. Think about this with Carson Beck. They told Carson Beck he would have a chance to play, and they were saying the only guy you got to be at is Jake Fromm. Who was this Stetson dude? He wasn't even on the radar. He wasn't even on campus. That's the one thing they can't tell you about. Listen, recruiting is like GPS. Put in a destination, and it's going to get you there. They don't give you weather conditions. They ain't give you traffic. They ain't give you potholes. And they don't give you the car in front of you. They keep on slamming on brakes. So all I'm saying is Carson Beck is more of a true barometer of college football because sometimes, Kevin, the one thing that no one wants to do is wait and wait patiently. Because waiting for what? Because guess what? Y'all was just on the national championship team. Guess what they asked Carson about? Stetson. Because he was the quarterback. So I'm just saying, right, wrong, indifferent, they don't tell you that, hey, man, when they say you might get 4 years to get a quality education, you might be doing that while playing sports. It just happens.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. Rich Styles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, will join us. What a Masters week and getting ready for the RBC Heritage, which tees off on Thursday there at Hilton Head. This is 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Glad you're making us a part of your day. Big weekend there in Augusta for one. Scotty Scheffler, Rich Styles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, joining us here on the program. Rich, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Scotty Scheffler, man, what a story. Put it in perspective, Rich, what this guy has done over the last couple of months. A meteoric rise to number one, the fastest number one player to win a major other than Tiger Woods and David Duval, and he smoked them out of the water in terms of how long it took him to get to that feat. I mean, what type of a run is he on right now on the PGA Tour?
Well, incredible. He is on a Tiger-type run where he's won 4 out of the last 6 tournaments that he's entered. He's now won a major on his first official PGA trip to Augusta. And I think this is his first of many majors. And now I think a lot of people are going to call him Master Chef.
And Rich, when you think about a guy like Master Chef, when you think about the type of, it's what I like the most about these guys is the one thing golf does, it gives us a chance to dive into the person's personal life. I mean, you're not trying to get all up in their business, but I mean, the family, man, they kept showing his wife, at the final hole. I mean, just talk about the type of individual he is. And golf to me is always searching for the next face of golf. Is it Master Chef?
Oh gosh, yes. I mean, Scotty is just incredible. I mean, even his instructor, Randy Smith, was talking about he's worked with this guy for a long time. He's been playing golf since he was 7 years old. He's probably got the same wedges that he's had since he was 7 years old. You don't want to change those as good as he played them. But I mean, he's a family guy. He's strong in his faith. I mean, the interview that he did after winning the Masters, saying that he gives God all the glory, is just incredible to have that kind of a platform. And I mean, he has just played tremendous. His short game it's just unstoppable. I mean, he gets up and down from places that people don't get up and down. And if he does get a bogey, which it doesn't happen very often, he backs it up with a birdie. So, I mean, he 4-putted on the last hole of the Masters to still win by 3. I think he kind of lost his concentration once he got up and realized, hey, I'm 1 or 2 putts away from winning the Masters, and I think he lost focus a little bit on the last hole. But you got to give the guy a lot of credit. I mean, he's been in there. He was the only guy on the Ryder Cup team without a PGA Tour win last year, and now look, 4 out of 6 major, the Masters. He's just on a roll, and I don't think he wants to get off that train.
Certainly, Rich, and golf, as you said, continue to look for that face. And you started off by saying Scotty Scheffler on a Tiger-like run, and that's probably an unfair comparison for anybody in the game of golf. But what, in your opinion, makes it more him more Tiger-like and maybe not more Jordan Spieth-like, where you have a quick rise and then you just kind of fade into the pack?
Well, we'll see what happens on that. I mean, there's no way to predict that. I mean, he's taken this week off, which you can't blame the guy. He's been on an incredible run, but, in order to get on the PGA Tour and win, it's extremely difficult. You can ask anybody that's won or anybody that's not won yet how hard it is with all these young guns coming up and all these other people who can play and do play on the tour. But to have a chance to win 4 tournaments in 6 starts, and one of those, the Masters, I mean, that's just an incredible run. Jordan Spieth had his run, and yes, he did fall because I think he started to listen to a lot of people about his swing, of how he could make it better or hit it farther. But I think Scotty is his own person. He's there because he loves the game. And his dream was to get on the PGA Tour, and his dream was to win the Masters. Now he's got to set some new goals and go out there and keep dominating like he's been doing. And with a game like his, as young as he is at 25, he can dominate for a long time.
And Rich, I mean, speaking of guys, I mean, being one of the faces of golf, a guy that had an incredible final round, Rory McIlroy. I mean, everybody knows that he still needs the Masters to have that Grand Slam. Talk about him as a golfer and how well he played in the final round. A lot of people say his biggest thing in majors is he gets into his own head and kind of gets away from his game a little bit.
Yeah, I think he does get into his own head. I think he expects himself to be better in the majors, and I think he he presses himself a lot more and ends up, just not playing as freely as we always used to see Rory play. Just bring the club back and swing through. Got that little hitch at the end where he gets that little extra jump on the ball, and I'm happy for him that he played well at Augusta, especially holding out from the sand and then followed by Colin Morikawa doing the same thing. But Rory played great. He was the only one with no bogeys on Sunday. So I hope this is the start of something for him that says, I can play at Augusta. I know I had a lead at one time and everybody was thinking I was going to win, but I placed second this time. I fought my way back into the tournament. I hit some great shots. I had no bogeys. I was bogey free on Sunday. I just hope it's a start of something for Rory that he's needed to have confidence in himself and let himself swing freely.
And Rich, it's kind of like one of those things with when Tiger Woods was so dominant. Nobody remembered second place because he was so far ahead. I mean, Rory put together one of the all-time great Sunday rounds, right? I mean, 64 on a Sunday. That was one of the all-time great Sunday performances from a guy at Augusta.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, to be there at Augusta on Sunday, shoot a 64 on Sunday, to tie a few others who have done it, it's just an incredible round of golf. And he looked at ease. He looked comfortable. He looked like he, was just swinging the club like he used to, that we all remember him doing. But it was an incredible round for Rory, only overtaken by Scottie Scheffler.
Rich, and one thing that stands out to me about the Masters is, it is the storylines, right? You got so many different storylines. You talk about, you talk about, Scheffler, you talk about Rory, you talk about Tiger Woods, you talk about the par 3 challenge, you talk about all the different guys that try to make, the previous winners. What stood out, the most to you from this year's Masters, especially when obviously Tiger Woods dominated storylines when his private jet showed up in Augusta?
Well, I think obviously Tiger stole the show as far as social media and the other media outlets just showing up, and then being able to play, shooting 1 under on Thursday, and then making the cut on Friday. It showed a little bit on Saturday and Sunday as far as his walk was concerned, but you give the guy a lot of credit. Nobody expected him to come back this soon. Whether or not we see him again at the PGA is unclear. I think it's probably going to be the Open at St. Andrews when we see him again. But that's incredible. He did a great job. But Scottie Scheffler just was so steady, so strong. That's a big story there. A couple of years ago, he was the Rookie of the Year on the PGA Tour. A year before that, he was on the Korn Ferry Tour playing up at Savannah at the Club Car Championship. So, this guy's come a long way in a very, very short period of time.
Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, joins us here on 3 and Out. Rich, this week, the RBC Heritage. I know they fired the cannons earlier today with that ceremonial tee shot. What do you expect? This has usually been a pretty good tournament the week after the Masters, when you would expect some guys to have a big exhale like, whew, I'm glad that's over, but you really get a great tournament at the RBC the week after the Masters.
Yeah, you do. Angela McSwain and I have talked several times, along with Steve Wilmot, the tournament director, about Hilton Head is very much like Sea Island and the RSM, that, the golfers like to kind of come and relax, bring their families and do family things, in the water and the pools, in the restaurants and in the parks and so on. So RBC has got usually has and always has a great turnout. They've still got 5 of the top 10 players that are playing this week. Defending champ is Stewart Cink. Tickets are sold out. So, it's a very popular tournament on a very popular golf course. And lots of former winners are going to be there this week. DJ, Matt Kuchar, Webb Simpson, several others. So Scottie is not in the field this week. I think he deserves a little time off, and I think he's going to take that. But the odds are favorite. If you look on any of the betting lines, is that the top 4 are going to be Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Cantlay, and Cameron Smith. You never know what will happen at Hilton Head. We've seen some exciting golf at that course. And it is a course where your driver is very key to keep it in the fairways because they're narrow and tree-lined. But then your short game and your putting has also got to be able to take over.
And Rich, you talk about it. You talk about a term like the RBC Heritage. You talk about the fact that it just shows how great these golfers are. They want to get away when it's more of a bringing their families to get away, but they still out there trying to go out there and compete. Is that what really separates the good from the great? The great can go out there and say, "Look, man, even when I know I'm trying to give my family a chance to enjoy themselves, I'm still a competitive golfer at the end of the day."
Oh, I think everybody that goes out there is competitive. They're not going just to, hey, I want to bring the family, and if I make the cut. I think every guy in that field is out there to win. That's in their DNA. When you played football, every game you went out, you guys wanted to win. When I played baseball, same. You want to go out there and you want to do your best. And you want to be competitive, and you're only 4 rounds away from winning a PGA tournament. So you never know. This could be your week. This could be the week that you've never had before, and this could be the week that would give you a PGA Tour win.
Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, our guest. Rich, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
It is. Thank you, guys.
Rich Stiles joining us here on 3 and Out, and what a story there by Scotty Scheffler. 4 wins in his last 6 tournaments. As Rich said, that's Tiger Woods stuff. Been back in the day where you hate. That's like the ultimate in bad comparison. It's like the next quarterback that comes out and remotely kind of sort of looks like Tom Brady. Like, oh, that's very Tom Brady, like the way. Like, that's so not fair to do that, but 4 out of 6 is so hard to do on the PGA Tour.
Listen, I think the thing about it is, Kevin, too, is how he does it. He put such a gap between him and second, and like you said, a guy that doesn't shoot a lot of bogeys, a guy that shoots a par every other, par and birdies is all he's gonna do, and he has a really, really calm game. People ask, why do you need a cushion? that last hole. I know his nerves was going crazy, but he wasn't in danger of not winning that green jacket. But I'm always, Tiger has been such the face of golf since he decided to turn pro that it's been hard to replace him. And a lot of guys have tried to replace him, but this is how good Tiger is. This is how good, Scheffler is, or Rory. You didn't hear nothing about Phil Mickelson. Nothing. Like the whole tournament.
Yeah.
That's how good these guys were. That's how good they playing. But hey, man, the chef, is I would love it if they, keep,
the Master Chef.
Master Chef is out there getting them done. But hey, Kevin, is he the new face of golf? We will see. But because you know how it is, you win the Masters, then this guy's gonna be. But it's one tournament. He did his thing. And the way he's winning these tournaments is something to see. The goal is now is, can you keep it up? Can you keep that number 1 ranking? Because once again, when it comes to golf, you always going to be compared to Tiger, but that just comes with the program.
It certainly does. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. Stick with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you back here. 3 and out. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. Coming up, final hour, home team. Brandon Leak going to join us. Hawks in the play-in game. Braves off to a 2-3 start. I got the Nationals coming up a little bit later tonight. Got the RBC Heritage going on Hilton Head this week as well. So plenty to get to coming up in the final hour of the show, Ben. As we look forward to talking about, I'm going to ask him. I saw a picture on Twitter of him holding up some bling. Had that braid.
He had all the bling.
It didn't look like the bling that the fans got. I'll ask him if it was, but it did not look like the rings that the fans got last night. It looked like the real deal.
I'm gonna ask this, man. You don't want the replica. I want that thing. If that's that real thing, Kevin. Like I said,
I'm gonna ask him.
If it was a glitch in the system, they call your phone, Kevin. What? This is Kevin Thomas. Yeah, we want to know what to send the ring to. Do you go which ring? Do you talking about that real thing? Or the replica? It's the real thing. Oh my God. And would you, if you got the ring, the World Series championship ring, it's the real thing. Do you wear it, and how often do you wear it?
If it's the Braves championship ring, I would wear it. Probably a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I don't wear jewelry really, but for that,
I mean that's not even. Listen, that's for the haters. That's for all these fake, Marlins fans and Tampa Bay Rays fans. Because the thing is, come on, man. People that go, man, I've been a Rays fan for stop lying. Just don't give me that nonsense. But it is nice though. When they unveiled it, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, they spared no expense on that thing.
Listen. All the diamonds, all the gold. Nice.
I was saying they had diamonds, they had rubies in there, they had all kind of stuff.
I mean, look, I'm not a big ring wearer myself, but if I got something like that, I'm like, look, man. I mean,
your equivalent would be the Super Bowl ring.
Yeah.
How long would you wear it after you won the Super Bowl, or would it be like every time I go to an NFL function, I'm putting it on?
Yeah. If I'm going to a,
are you wearing it out in public to flex?
No, somebody will rip my wrist off of that thing. But I will say, I would try to wear it as much as I possibly could. I got a chance to play with David Givens. He won 2 of Tom Brady's first 3 Super Bowls when we got him, and he showed us them. They was, man, he had them in like a bag. They're like huge, man. And it's like, I look at now, Kevin, how crazy can the rings get? Because now it's all about the diamonds, like diamonds, rubies, gold everywhere. But the Braves one, it is nice.
Yeah, how many can you cram into this thing and just make it sparkle and shine? And it is very, very nice. Freddie Freeman, sorry, bro, you're going to have to wait a little while before you get yours.
We're going to get to him. I mean, Freddie Freeman, obviously when he come to town, they're going to do a tribute. They're going to give it to him.
All right, if you're on the Braves are going to L.A., right? Do you come out and warm ups with it on? Because they're not giving Freddie his until they come to Atlanta. So the Braves will be in L.A. this time next week playing the Dodgers Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If you're on one of the Braves, do you wear it in the warm-ups while the Dodgers are out there stretching things? Hey, Freddie, what's up?
I mean, I think
like Acuna, I'm sorry. Did that blind you?
Yeah, Acuna somebody could, because he's not going. But I don't even know. I don't know if him and Acuna are the best of friends.
Well, apparently, yeah,
best of friends. But I just think that
Good to have you back here. 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. Home team, Brandon Leak, host of Home Team in Hamilton, will join us coming up in just a little bit. We'll ask about the start the Braves are off to, also the Hawks, and the play-in game against Charlotte. Do they have any magic? And not the Orlando Magic. Do they have any magic to continue a run like they put together last year? He'll join us coming up in just a little bit. And apparently, well, what a lot of people already knew, the Washington football team, not good at, well, being a football organization.
Yes.
At the end of the day. We'll get to that coming up as well.
Yeah, the Washington Commanders. I mean, listen, they're trying to get as far away from the Washington Redskins football team. They do it.
Might be trying to get away from the Washington football team.
Listen, at the end of the day, you had a lot of scandals. When you start stealing from the people that pay tickets and the team you playing, not even you, Daniel Snyder, can avoid that.
There's going to be a great story to follow on that whole situation. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But the Braves tonight, we'll have them for you coming up just after we are done here on 3 and Out. Going to have Bryce Elder making his debut tonight, a young man that played at University of Texas. Apparently, he's got some nice pitches. A lot of folks talk very highly of him, but it's your major league debut. 6 games into the season, Braves blew through 2 guys last night, Ben, that they thought might be candidates to be that 6th guy in the rotation. Obviously, that didn't happen, so they had to make a couple of roster moves, and Bryce Elder gets to the major league debut tonight. 14 games in 14 days. Why the Braves are trying to do this? A lot of people said, why not just pitch Max Fried in his turn and go from there? Braves elected not to do that. They go with a guy making his debut tonight.
Yeah, Bryce Elder, look, just like Ian Anderson, a couple of years removed from having his, his first start against none other than the Yankees. Second start came against, the Boston Red Sox. I think when the 14 games in 14 days, Kevin, it makes it tough. It makes it tough because you're like, look, this is unusual. Got to get a lot of games in to kind of get back to the regular schedule. But I think Snit is saying, all right, we're just trying to get through this 2-week gauntlet. Then we'll try to get back to some normalcy. And if you're a guy like Bryce Elder, I don't know what it's like to get, because baseball is such a unusual sport as far as like getting called up. Most guys never get that call. Bryce get the call. Listen, and this is an opportunity when you talk about this Braves starting lineup. Look, man, you know what you got. Well, Ian Anderson, he kind of got beat up a little bit. You know what you got in Max Fried. I mean, you talk about Charlie Morton. You talk about supposed to be a 6-man rotation. And it's about healthy bodies. You want to have healthy arms, down the stretch. We only 6 games in, and you already calling guys up.
Well, I mean, I think they're trying to do that to save some of that and, counteract the shortened spring training. I just, after 2 bad performances by Huascar Ynoa and Ian Anderson, you kind of burned through the 2 guys that were already there to kind of be this guy tonight, and you kind of wonder if that wasn't some, I don't want to say bad, I mean, just won a World Series, but I mean, in the moment, some bad managering, I don't even know if that's the thing, bad managerial decisions to kind of burn through both of your options there that you had to go, and because there are rules, you can't just send guys down and bring them right back up. That was part of the CBA that they said, look, you don't want guys going up and down, and let you, manipulate what they're doing. So I think the guys that got sent down have got to be gone for 10 days at least before they can be called back up. So this is not just a, hey, we're going to do it today. Bryce, you're going to pitch tonight, and tomorrow you'll be right back in Gwinnett. No, you can't do that. So I think this was an interesting kind of tactical move that the Braves went through here this early in the season to dive into some of that young pitching down in the minor leagues.
Well, Kevin, I always ask this. I mean, I'll divert to you and how much of this is look. You always working on strategies when it comes to baseball. You always working on, best practices. I know it's only 5 games into the season. When you go, all right, man, let's start utilizing some of these. You always hear about the one thing with the Braves, the farm system. They got the best farm.
Well, they did. They're
system.
not anymore. But I mean,
one of them. At one point they were. If you talk about the situation with Snit, Snit got criticized last year for how he be doing, who's going to be starting, but. When you talk about Huascar Ynoa, we talk about Ian Anderson, you are projecting they're gonna give you 2 quality starts. And when they don't, you're like, all right, dude, like what do? I don't want to throw them back out there because let's face it, these guys, you always tell me this, Kevin, certain guys for the regular season, certain guys, they are for the post-season, excuse me, and the goal is to get them there healthy. Now, I know they're gonna pitch a lot. It's only 5 games in, but if you are Snit, I mean, you're in a no-win situation. Everything the Braves do this year will be highly scrutinized because they are the defending World Series champs. So everything they do. So when the Braves lose, yes, The Braves ain't the only team losing, 11-2, 10-1, but the Braves got dominant. I get it. But how much of this, Kevin, is just saying, look, let's start going through some of these strategies early. That way we get in the middle of the season, all-star break after. We've already had some of these guys who, because you always trying to get these, pitchers who may have been Ian Anderson got called up way earlier than everybody thought he would. Turned out well for him. But how much of this, Kevin, is seeing what you got in some of these prospects you got in this farm
do
system?
think that some of it, I think it's more of what you just said, where you're trying to make it to the postseason, and you can't plan for the postseason early enough. I know, especially if people say you're going to contend, and I think you look at, hey, it was out of control relatively early, and Spencer Strider gave you a bunch of innings in the middle, and I think if you're Brian Snitker, you're going, do I really need to use AJ Minter and Will Smith or a Kenley Jansen in an 11-2 ball game just to get us through? Or do I use these two guys that are stretched out to be starters to pitch me 6 innings to get this thing over with? And I think that's the route he chose. Now, it did cause a little, roster kerfuffle that they had to work around and, make some things happen to get pitching for tonight. But I think that is, and if that's a trend that continues, I'm okay with it, because I think you look at how the postseason is managed now. Max Fried gave you 4 or 5 innings, and you turned it over to that bullpen who was lights out. Minter, Will Smith. Now you have Kenley Jansen, Luke Jackson, and you want those guys to be as fresh as humanly possible getting to the postseason so that you can really utilize your pitching staff to the fullest degree, because you get more off days in the postseason than you do, obviously, in the regular season. So I think you don't want to burn guys early, and I think that is the temptation last night is, look, we're 5 games into this. I don't want to already be 6 games in going, well, I've pitched Will Smith 3 days in a row, and I've pitched and it's not just do they get in the game? People forget about that. Is they got up, they warmed up, they threw, they sat down, they got up, they warmed up, they threw. Like, how many times does that happen? And it goes unseen during the regular season. So, bit of an interesting strategic move by the Braves here the last night or two. We'll see. Again, by all accounts, Bryce Elder, going to be fun to watch. Had a very good spring and is highly thought of in the Braves organization. Obviously, you're thought of if you're getting called up to make a start. But we'll see. I think it's an interesting move by the Braves early. And again, I think this is all being done to not unnecessarily use those guys that you're going to lean on, Matzik, Minter, down the stretch to try to close out potentially a division, try to close out maybe a playoff series, and say, man, remember back in April, we just threw them 16 out of 19 nights? That probably wasn't a good idea. So I can only assume that was the thinking going into what happened yesterday.
Well, yeah, Kevin, and look, I get it. You talk about a guy like Snit. Let's just call this what it really is. No one thought Snit would be this good. Like, nobody. like we be talking about Snit like when Snit had 40-something years in when he got called up.
I think like 37 and 38.
So you start saying to yourself, I remember that, it was like, Brian Snit, what? But then you got to say to yourself, well, dude, they had to scramble. So now that Snit gets to say, I'm a World Series manager. How many guys don't get to say that? And there are guys that got way more experience than Snit. I get it. But I think every time Snit makes the decision, come on, man, we're very, very tough on the Braves, no matter what they do. Pitching, bullpen, lineup. And Snit realizing, dude, Snit gets to be a manager during the social media age.
Oh, yeah.
We was rough when there was no internet. We was rough on Bobby Cox. So I just think that sometimes, Kevin, it just comes down to no matter what Snit does, like, what is he doing? But like he said, everything with Snit is predicated on quality starts. If my starters are giving me 5, 6, 7 innings, then everything goes smooth. But it's something about, man, games get out of hand now in baseball, second, third inning. It's out of hand. Like, what? A team will give you 8 runs in 1 inning. It's bad. So now you're saying, all right, like you said, what you even said about Jansen and Smith, Will Smith, he used to do, I ain't finna waste y'all. I'm not going to put y'all out there if the game is over. So I do get it. I get it when it comes to Snit. When he win, we win in spite of Snit. When we lose, it's because he's making the worst decisions. But I get that part. But it has a lot to do, Kevin, too, with the fact that you got a team that's won the NL East the last 4 years. And obviously with 5 games into the season, people like, we talking people like, BJ bending off a cliff
Yeah.
already. Get off the ledge, BJ, in just 5 games.
He should be feeling better this time, and they're 2-3.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think there's
got to
been
win the series.
there's been
know?
times when they
Yeah.
were 1-6. He's
Yeah.
going, I don't know. I don't know if his team's got it. I don't know if they're gonna get it done. But no, I think it's been a good start. I actually was talking to somebody the other day. I said, look, kind of been a decent little start here. It's like, playing 500 ball, and as I've said a lot, you don't want to worry about the division and in the postseason in May and April, but you don't want to go 1-18 either and put yourself out of it, where you have to crawl out, i.e., what the Hawks did when they started. They put yourself in such a tough spot that the best the Hawks were kind of hoping for was maybe they could get the 8th spot, and now they're in the play-in game coming up tomorrow against Charlotte. So I think right now, if the Braves are sitting there 500 for the first 3-4 weeks, who cares? I think that's good, solid, consistent baseball, and that'll put you in a position to come closing time, which is obviously August, September, be there to get something done. We've got a lot to get to. Home team, Brandon Leak, really excited to talk. I want to find out if he got actual bling or if that's the replica ring that he was throwing up there on Twitter earlier. We'll talk to him about this Braves team, about this Hawks team getting ready to play Charlotte coming up in the play-in game as well. He will join us next. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. You can also catch us streaming live on ESPNCoastal.com and see us live on video. See our smiling faces here on this Tuesday on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, glad you're making us a part of your day. We've got the Braves and the Nationals coming up 6:05. We'll have pregame coverage a little bit later tonight. We are efforting home team Brandon Leak, host of the Home Team and Hamilton show. Look to have him on here momentarily. Want to ask him about this Braves team and the start they're off to, and also this Hawks team coming up on Wednesday night. We'll play versus Charlotte in the play game. They have anything left in terms of postseason magic. I think we have a home team. Home team Brandon Leak joins us here on 3 and Out. Home team, welcome. How are you?
Gentlemen, thanks for having me. I'm having a blast of a day.
I bet you are. I wanted to ask you because I saw you post on Twitter a little bit of Atlanta Braves bling. Is that the real thing, or is that the replica? Because it looks like you got the real Holyfield there.
Hell, it's physically in my possession, so I'm going to say it's real. We actually had the two gentlemen, one that works with the Atlanta Braves from the creative side, In-Sung Kim, and had a gentleman, Chris Poitras, from Jostens, who actually made the rings. And after the interview, they presented us with the replica rings that they were handing out last night to fans who were entering the game.
All right, I'd be blinging it around as well. If, a lot of Braves fans are going to be wearing those to the ballpark, I would imagine, all summer long.
Hey, you put light on it, it shines, so it's real enough for me.
Brandon, I was about to say, when you think about when I saw the pic, man, how big is that thing in person? I mean, I'm like, it looks like a 4-finger ring. I'm like, how big is that thing? I mean, in person.
Ben, I don't know how they measure them by weighing them in ounces or grams, but even the replica ring, they really did a good job of just taking care of everybody. When I say everybody, obviously the players and the staff got their rings Saturday night, but also what the Braves did, support staff within the organization and even people at our station on 680 The Fan who are part of the pregame and postgame shows. The Braves went out of their way and gave them a step down, but their rings are personalized just like the players are. And, when you want to talk about a first-class organization, making sure they took care of every single person who's been a part of the journey with the Atlanta Braves radio network, you have to give them a whole lot of credit.
Home team Brandon Leak joining us here. Braves off to a 2-3 start. Home team obviously had to make a move after using two guys people thought would be that sixth starter last night. What do you kind of make of the Braves start to this point? Obviously getting ready for a big road trip against San Diego and LA.
Yeah, I mean, they're just off to a slow start. You can't point to arms being stretched out yet because that's everybody because of the lockout and the lack of time that the pitchers had to get loosened up for spring training this year. I think the one thing that's a little bit off, and I don't think it's a point of concern yet, is the lack of run scoring. That through 5 games, the Braves only have one game where they have scored more than 3 runs, and that was a 7-6 win they had over Cincinnati in the first series. Every other game they scored 3 runs or less. So you're just not seeing the guys get out to the hot start that you thought they would. The Braves got off to a slow start. They were 4-8 last year before getting their act together in August. But, Eddie Rosario and Austin Riley had bad nights last night. Rosario's had a tough season. He's batting 59 for the season. And even Adam Duvall, who's a big part of the push, he's a little slow out of the gate. So, until they get Ronald Acuna Jr. back, get somebody settled in the DH position, which probably will be Marcell Ozuna, they're just going to have to plod their way through this and see if the bats can help out on the night the pitching is off, and the pitching's going to have to help out on the nights when the hitting is off.
I mean, home team, Matt Olson, obviously everybody going to be comparing him to Freddie Freeh until, maybe the halfway during the season. Maybe he got a nice – he's only 5 games in, but how do you assess, his play thus far?
Fantastic start. He's finding a way to stay on base. After the first series, he was 8 for 14. His on-base percentage is over 600. So he's one of the Braves that's finding a way to wreak a little bit of havoc. Has already left the yard with a home run, finding walks. So he's doing everything he can to help the Braves score runs and kind of get some offense generated. The Braves have had some hits in some of these games, but they just aren't scoring the runs. So Matt Olson, along with Austin Riley, along with Ozzie Albies, you just got to figure as time goes on, the bats will heat up and then the runs will start to come.
Home team Brandon Leak joining us. So tonight we get a guy making his major league debut. I know, as I mentioned earlier, Snicker played a couple of guys, and Tucker Davidson, Spencer Strider last night that people thought might be a six-man option. But is this simply about not wearing out the strength of your team, which is going to be that bullpen come August, September, October?
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I think even like last night, Davidson was supposed to start today, and because things got a little sideways late, he had to eat up some runs and eat up some innings. And so when that's going to happen, the Braves playing 14 games in 14 days, just back to back to back, on nights where things get out of control, you're just going to have to leave somebody out there. Snicker also said that he wanted Max Fried to end up with his regular rest times. I think it was more about not rushing Max Fried, even though it was his turn in the rotation, making sure that the days that he had in between starts was in the right place. And so I think, getting a healthier Max Fried, he wants to have a bounce back performance after his last time out. And if he can get Max Fried and Charlie Morton rolling, I think that'll be a good way to settle things down for the Braves this early part of the season.
Brandon, switching gears to the Hawks, they got a playing game against Charlotte. How do you like their chances against Charlotte? And if they do make it to the playoffs, do they got some of that 2021 magic still left in them?
Ben, that's the issue. The magic just hasn't been there. They've been so up and down. When they play well, they look like they can rock anybody in the NBA. When they play poorly, they can lose to anybody and lose badly to teams. I expect them to beat Charlotte. I'm expecting the Nets to win, and so they'll end up playing, if that scenario goes that way, they'll end up playing Cleveland. So I expect them to punch a ticket to the postseason. The issue is they'll be showing up playing Miami next Sunday. But I think tomorrow's game will be very interesting because Charlotte can score a lot of points, and the Hawks score a lot of points too. Charlotte is number one in the NBA in transition offense, and the Hawks are 26th in the NBA in transition defense. So I'm expecting a 133-128 shootout inside of State Farm Arena tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's awfully scary if you're trying to move on in a one-game scenario. But as you said, I mean, this is largely this, for the most part, it's the same roster with Nate McMillan. What's been different about this team that they were able to find last year?
I think it's just chemistry and focus. And there have been some really strange quotes all season long, from early in the season when Trae Young said the regular season was boring, to Clint Capella saying we don't have guys who are defensive minded, to Kevin Huerter saying we probably need a few more veterans on this team at one point in the season, to Danilo Gallinari, we don't know where we're going to get night to night. And even from Travis Schlenk, who said he made a mistake by bringing the exact same team back. So there have been some eyebrow-raising and head-scratching quotes. But the truth is, over the last 2 weeks, they have looked like a completely different team. They look like they aren't bored, and they are finishing out some of these games the way a lot of people expected them to. You just can't be a team that tries to turn it on and turn it off when you want to. And hopefully that version of the Hawks that we've seen throughout a lot of this season is gone, and the team that was a scrappy team and finishing teams off last year on the road has returned.
A guy like Nate McMillan go from interim head coach to head coach of the Hawks. I mean, what do you assess what Lloyd Pierce was able to build up for a guy like Nate McMillan? And do you think it's just a case of they're still a young team, Brandon, trying to figure out how to win consistently in the NBA?
They are a young team, but they do have veterans, so it's kind of a mix. The core, John Collins and Kevin Huerter and Trae Young, they are a young team. But going into next year, Trae Young will be a Hawk for 5 years. John Collins will be a Hawk for 6 years. So even though they are youthful, they are not inexperienced. And you would think that all teams over the course of NBA history, they have to take their lumps. And this was a step back. To even be in the play-in tournament is just really shocking after the way that they ascended to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And so hopefully they've learned their lesson. I really think that what needs to come here, and I don't know who it is or how you get it here, but there needs to be a number two option, a definite, solid number two option to play alongside Trae Young, somebody who can create their own shot, can get to the cup, where everything doesn't rely on Trae Young having a big night or hitting 36-footers if things are tight. You need a 1-2 punch. It's been fun to watch these guys grow and the ball movement and having 5 guys in double figures. But when you get to money time, it's a 1-2 or 1-2-3 punch that's going to get you to the end and over the finish line where the Hawks want to be.
Just from what you kind of shared with us here, do you think last season went to their head a little bit when at the Hawks, when you hear the regular season is boring, I would kind of say as a franchise, who are you to say the regular season is boring? Did the last year kind of go to their heads a little bit, thinking it was going to be a little bit of a cakewalk into the playoffs?
I don't think that's unfair. They arrived last year, so I guess the battles that they went through and bringing the exact same team back, they should have felt like they should have gotten off to a better start and been a higher seed. But just some of the defensive lapses in the third quarter, and teams when they just didn't get up because they looked at the record of the other team, those are not things that are good habits to build a championship team. And you look at Miami and you look at Boston, they play defense every single night, no matter who it is. And look at the other night when Miami had pretty much locked up everything. They still played their starters because that is the mentality and the mindset of their organization. So hopefully it's a lesson learned. The silver lining is you just have to play 2 games to get in. But once you get in, you do have a lot of playoff experience from last year. And hopefully you could draw on that, stay healthy and execute and have a great playoff run like you did when you shocked a lot of the NBA world.
And Brandon, finally, when you think about, the draft coming up, Falcons got pick number 8. I don't even look at mock drafts anymore. Anybody that got a platform, got a mock draft 2.0, 3.0, 4.0. Is there any shot that this Falcons team, if the defensive player that they coveted is not there, if the receiver that they coveted is not there, do they go quarterback at number 8?
You know what, Ben? I don't think anything is crazy. I don't think it's crazy to take a quarterback at 8. I don't think it's crazy to take a defensive end at 8. I don't think it's crazy to take a wide receiver at 8 if you're talking about maybe picking a quarterback next year and having Kyle Pitts and a top wide receiver to have the new quarterback come in and have some targets to throw to. I don't think it's crazy with the Falcons to trade out of 8, maybe pick a quarterback for somebody else and pick up a couple of draft picks moving forward. They are in such an interesting place that there are no wrong answers. And I think that's the silver lining for the Atlanta Falcons is that for the first time in a long time, the GM, the coach, they can completely construct this team the way they want to. They can go defensive heavy, offensive heavy. They can try to be a balanced team. They can pick a quarterback. They can pick a defensive end. It really is an interesting space in Falcon history right now. And I think the bottom line is how much time will it take for them to get them back to being competitive is what everybody who's a Falcon fan will be watching to see.
Home team, Brandon Leak, host of the Home Team in Hamilton Show, 680 The Fan there in Atlanta. Our guest, Home Team, always a pleasure. Thanks much.
Anytime, guys.
Appreciate it. Home Team, Brandon Leak joining us here. Got him a little replica bling. I was showing that off earlier. As he said, hey, it shines in the light. It counts.
It's mine. I feel the same way. I mean, when you think about, Kevin, that's the one thing that we don't take into context when you look at a team like the Braves. Been so long since they, obviously, been to the top of the mountain. But the fans are always on the minds of teams now to be able to say, how can we bring the fans in? And like I said, listen, you showed it to me with Brandon. I mean, if I'm Brandon, I said, listen. Somebody said, man, you got a ring. You saw me, right? Where your ring at? Yeah, I got mine. So at the end of the day, he got a replica or not. Yeah. He got a shot to Brandon.
Absolutely. I think they're going to do it 2 more times this season, 2 games where they're going to give the replica World Series ring out. So I know those will be hot items amongst Braves country. We got so much more to come, including the Braves and Nationals 6:05 coming up a little bit later tonight. But been talking a little football there at the end. And, well, one football team continues to find new ways to amaze, and not in a good way. We'll get to that next. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Glad you were with us. And earlier today, one NFL team just getting more bad news. And I'm trying not to sound sympathetic because they really have brought it upon themselves.
Yep.
And that's the Washington Commanders. It sounds like they're playing in the XFL. The Washington football team. They apparently they stink at being an NFL franchise.
Yep.
Or at least. Well, no, I would say it's Dan Snyder, but apparently
they've been arguing.
But apparently everybody in the building is not good at what they do.
The Washington Commanders, a congressional committee said they engaged in unlawful financial conduct, owed visiting teams money, and potentially season ticket. So let me get this straight. Your season. I hate to say I understand. I can understand not wanting to give money to the opposing team.
Yeah.
I can understand that. But you do commercials, advertising, marketing. The fact that you have season ticket holders at all, and think about if you're a season ticket holder and you look at this like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, like number one, they probably overcharged y'all. Number two, they ain't giving y'all money back or whatever they're supposed to give to y'all. But this is the thing about Dan Snyder. I do not know how long he's been the owner of the Washington Commanders. If there's ever been an owner that has screamed, I don't deserve to be an owner anymore. Y'all need to get me up out of here. Because the thing about it is, I'm not gonna get into all the allegations that he's had, but
I'm saying, but you've literally had the full gamut.
But let's face it though. Okay. What has Washington done as of late to give you any they drafted RG3? What they had Rex Grossman at one point, they had Donovan McNabb at one point.
Kirk Cousins.
But here's the thing. What has Washington done of significance lately? They don't do anything. Well, you could say they're the worst team in the NFC East. Dallas, they're not going to win anything. Good branding. The Giants have won a Super Bowl, and the Eagles won one more recent than the Giants. What does Washington do? They fill a slide. They're always in the news for things that don't got nothing to do with on the field, right? They don't have a quarterback right now, right? I just think that for me, Kevin, we always say, what is a sign of good franchises? No off the field stuff. Definitely not coming. Let's think about it. I can understand if a player got to talk about an injury or the game or a teammate or a coach. We talking about not giving money to the season. What? Like,
apparently, according to the congressional committee, they said the team withheld ticket revenue from visiting teams and refundable ticket deposits from season ticket holders.
So you bought
on top of the fact that you have the most toxic workplace apparently in the history of workplaces.
Yes, I mean, look, you know what it's gonna do. Once again, okay. Every time something happens with the Washington Commanders, now crazy to even say, they're gonna get to talking about everything. They're gonna get a track with. They also did this. And they also did this. It's almost like, I think right now the Denver Broncos, I think they're the current franchise that might be up for sale. It's about to be two. About to be two teams. And here's the thing, Kevin, I will say this now. Now, when you talk about tradition and prestige, they have it. The Washington Commanders have it from location to history. But as of recent, now, and people could be saying, well, Ben, doing all this stuff, they're going to go for cheap. No, they not. They still ain't going to be cheap. You easily, $4 billion. It's gonna be a lot to get him. But Dan Snyder, I just don't understand it. Dan Snyder, and I you might have to check it, Kevin. But I think his wife is the one responsible for the pink. When you see the pink in the NFL, it's because of his wife. I think she did that initiative. So they are a part of some good things. It's just a lot of bad stuff. And this is just the current. I mean, if I'm a season ticket holder and I done bought tickets that I didn't even get my money back for, I'm thinking, well, maybe it was because of COVID. No, it was not.
Sticking it in their back pocket.
Goodness, man, come on. And I will say this: I understand that wealthy people are quote penny pinchers. I get it, but come on, Dan, man, you got to do better than this.
They have a few more pennies to pinch than the rest of us.
They do,
to say the least. But yeah, I mean, that's just an unbelievable. As you said, and there has been precedent, albeit for a different reason. I mean, the NBA did make Donald Sterling sell the Clippers. So, I mean, you can, if there's enough to say, look, this, I guess this would be the equivalent of collegiately lack of institutional control. Like, listen, Dan, you're being accused of withholding money that's not yours. We call that stealing in a lot of places, right? You have who knows how many workplace discrimination lawsuits, sexual discrimination, all the kind of stuff that you don't want happening in your front office. It's all out there. Like, I think you could make a case if you're one of these other NFL owners, go like, yeah, like you probably aren't running this thing the way you're supposed to be. You probably don't need to be
And
an owner.
I could be
sure.
wrong with this. Is this just the current thing? Because it's almost like, what is it about Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders? First, you had to change your name, and that was a big debacle. Okay, you're gonna make us wait 2 years. That's fine. You want to boom. Then you losing sponsors, right? That's the only. Let's call it what it is. He only changed the name because he was losing sponsors. That's number two. Then you talking about the sexual harassment stuff. That just who knows? That's probably still going on right now. Now you're stealing from your freaking fans. It's like what? It's like what are we doing?
And opposing teams that you're sharing money with.
Yeah. So now, listen. What's gonna make those opposing teams say what? Yeah, man. Why? I mean, listen. It's tax time. Everybody getting their tax done. Make sure you get done. If you are the Giants, if you are Jerry Jones, if you are Philly, you saying, man, this money coming up short. Something ain't right. And they saying, man, it's something about these. What happened? And they play Washington twice. But I
are you lying about your ticket revenue, Dan?
Like, hey, Dan, what? Hey, man, I got some discrepancy going on. What was that? Hey, man, we
didn't sell as many tickets as you think we did.
Yeah, man. I said, we, like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Talk about that. Listen, at the end of the day, Dan Snyder has survived a lot when it comes to the National Football League, and a lot of it had to do with Kevin was the fact that the things he was doing wasn't affecting the bottom line. But now you talking about the bottom line. So it's really going to come down to if the other 29 owners going to step up and say something about it. But Dan Snyder, once again, opposing teams. Now you're talking about the fans. I mean, if there was ever a moniker for Mr. Can't Get Right, it is Dan Snyder and the Washington Commanders. We will see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, then this could be just the beginning of this story as it unfolds. We got more to come here on this Tuesday. Don't go anywhere. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here, 3 and Out on this Tuesday. Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop. Glad you are with us. Braves coming up here in just a little bit, 6:05. Patrick Corbin for the Nationals. And Bryce Elder going to make his major league debut for the Braves tonight after the Braves said, hey, we're going to go 6-man rotation, pitch both of their options that we thought they had last night. So they had to make a couple of moves and get Bryce Elder up. And that's the life of being in the minor leagues. Hey, you're getting called up. And guess what? You're playing now. So go get him. No time to sit there and think about it.
Of course. I mean, and Kevin, the thing is too, right? I think about if I'm in the minors and I never get that call. And obviously, you know, you have to see other guys when they get called up. You get used to the guys you playing with, but if you are Bryce, you know, you look at Ian Anderson and go, look, man, yes, it was a shortened season. Yes, the Braves were down some starters, and they call up Ian Anderson. Hey, Ian, listen, you're getting called up. But they got the Yankees. No, you got the Yankees. What? But I think, too, Kevin, when you think about this Braves team, right, everybody had to have their start at a certain point. No one says when you're going to get called up. What do you do with that opportunity? Because, yes, I get it when you talk about how deep this Braves lineup is. No Julio Teheran anymore. No Mike Fulton-Navy. We don't talk about Mike Fulton-Navy. It's what, a couple of years removed from Mike Fulton-Navy?
Several years,
never to be seen from or heard from again. So I do think that being a starting pitcher in baseball might be the hardest position in sports because it's so unpredictable. It's like, dude, you got the goods, you got the stuff, and it's almost like one bad outing. Kevin, you talk about a guy like Scherzer, talk about a guy like DeGrom. We say, is Max Fried next? You say, you can be, but that's consistency. And it's hard to be consistently elite in baseball, but you're talking about a guy like Bryce Elder, he's saying to himself, all right, I get to start. Let's go do it. And nothing like having a quality start because even though Brandon Holmes said, listen, he only scored over 3 runs one time, you know this lineup is gonna find this. You know they're gonna find their niche. And Ronald Acuna going to be coming back. But look, a guy like Bryce, go out there and get him because regardless of what happened, you getting to start for the World Series, whether you was on the team last night or not.
Yeah.
If I've never seen the Braves, I said his name was Elder. He's starting tonight. That's a very, very unique place to be, man. But obviously, it's easy for me to say I ain't got to stand in front of no major league battles. I don't got to throw that slider or that sinker or that change up. But go out there because Kevin, like you say, who knows what a quality star could do, not just for the rest of this lineup, but for this team. Because I think this team wants to get into a road, and we always talking about getting on the road. It's freaking 5 games into the season. Yeah, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think obviously the offense is going to come around. I think sometimes in games like this, you saw it last night. The young man for the Nationals was making his major league debut, and lo and behold, the Nationals popped off 11 runs. Who's to say the Braves can't do that? And sometimes that kind of sparks a little bit of something with the offense. You're like, hey, man, this guy's making his debut. We'll have to help him out a little bit, score some runs for him, help, make his transition a little easier. So we'll see if the offense can get going tonight for Atlanta. I think it's there. As you said, 3 runs or less in all but one game, that's not going to cut it for a lot of teams. And this Braves team, you look at that lineup, you say, this lineup is too good to not be able to score a bunch of runs. And I will say this, they've had, at least from my time getting to watch them here shortly into the season, they've had a bunch of fly balls hit that warning track. They've had a bunch of balls be almost out. And maybe it's just one of those early in the season things where, hey, in June, July, weather gets a little hotter, those balls travel a little bit farther, and those warning track shots become home runs, and all of a sudden, you're not worried about this Braves team scoring runs. But I do think this is a team as currently constituted, and I say that minus Ronald Acuna, can't score runs.
Yeah.
As he said, Dansby's in a horrible funk. Rosario's batting somebody's age. That's not good. 59 is a bingo number. 59 is a bingo number, and that's it. Not your batting average. So, he's got more to come. Adam Duvall. So if some of those guys start getting things rolling, this team can put together some big numbers. And I hope for, Bryce Elder's sake, they give him some run support. And it's not, hey, man, go out there and pitch a one-hitter, which, it's happened in the past with guys. But it's your major league debut. It's such a special moment. And, you only get one of those. And you want it to go out there and be a memorable one. And you're playing a team that's, quite frankly, not expected to do much. I mean, again, they're going to win their share of games. They got over on the Braves last night, but this is a team that, with the lineup behind you, you don't even have to hit anymore, Bryce. So you don't even have to worry about that. Just go out there and pitch. and give your a team a chance to win against a lineup that you should have some success against.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm rooting for him. I mean, Kevin, last year in 2021, there were times you didn't know who the hell was pitching. Like literally, you're like, who? Because Kevin, you're like, I don't know who this dude is. I don't know when they got it. I don't know if he got to the team last night. Bryce, go out there, have a quality start. You're gonna get some, definitely gonna get some offensive firepower. And hey, Kevin, you can get 5-6 innings. Hey man, go out there and prove your worth. It's easy for me to say that sitting behind this mic, but hey, they call it MLB for a league. They call it the big for a reason. You obviously got the stuff. You got that call. Go out there and show what you got.
Absolutely. And we'll have that for you come up. Bryce Elder, Major League debut against Patrick Corbin tonight of the Washington Nationals. Braves, again, a divisional game, so you'd love to kind of doubly get a win tonight after what happened last night. Appreciate home team Brandon Leak joining us here in the final hour of the program. Also, Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys Golf Show, talked about, what do you call him?
Master Chef.
Scotty Scheffler winning the green jacket. Of course, you got the RBC Heritage on Hilton Head this week, and also David Waters, Gators Breakdown. You got the spring game on Thursday night for Florida this week, as Georgia, Alabama, a lot of them have it on Saturday, so Florida moving theirs up to Thursday this week. We will see you tomorrow. Braves, after Braves baseball, afternoon game for the Braves. Braves coming up here in about 5 minutes. This is 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network.